What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Big Thing Capes and Cowls. Holy moly, do we have a lot to talk about. Not only did we get finally confirmation on our Superman and Lois cast, and right around the block from finding out who Lex Luthor is, they talked to David Corenswet, and they said, hey, man, what do you think? And he gave his thoughts on a more upbeat Superman, so we'll get into that. Anthony Mackie gave some notes, thoughts on what his version of Captain America is going to be like, and they also talked a little bit about Harrison Ford and how that's going to work. The Flash, good news, finally made its production budget back. Bad news, didn't make its marketing budget back yet. It's gonna be a bomb, guys. Swamp Thing, James Mangold's out there talking about more of it like a Frankenstein feel. Talk about that. Speaking of Superman and Lois, there was a Nostradamus-like tweet in 2020 with the guy calling it, saying this is exactly who's going to be cast 3 years later. We got it. And then finally, Aquaman, man, is going to be a standalone film, says James Gunn, not tied into anything. I think that's kind of like a no-duh at this point. But nonetheless, thanks for everybody who joined us at the New York event. You can still watch both the stand-up and the portion of the show with myself and Double Toasted and Mark Ellis. That's on the site, thekristianharloff.com. And speaking of that, guess what is going to be available on July 1st? That's right, the comic book. It's here. The Capes and Cowls comic book by Wicked Art. It is going to be on the site. You can get it a la carte. It's like, I'm not a member on the website. No worries. Go on over there and check it out. And what happens when you buy it a la carte? Well, Wicked Art is going to get a percentage of each sale of the a la carte. And if you're a member, you're going to get it. You can get this. You can get a hard copy of it. You can get it digitally. Go and check it out. And also, if you're a member on the site, you're going to see these two characters, Shoes and Beef. They make their debut on the website tomorrow. So go to the website, thekristianharloff.com. Sign up today. But that's not why we're here today. We're here to talk about everything in the world of superhero news. Let's do it. It's me. It's Winston. It's Coy. It's Capes and Cowls. Boom. What up, everybody? Welcome back. Big Thing Capes and Cowls. Myself and these two gentlemen.
I'm so disappointed in you.
Why, you think I was going to mess up?
We had the greatest opening of all time last week. I need you to release the Harloff cut.
Oh, you watched it? You went to see it?
I waited. I was waiting because I wanted to see it, and you cut all of it out.
It was such epic chaos.
Tough. That's all I say about it.
Tough cookies?
Tough.
4-hour Snyder cut.
Eat it.
What did my cousin used to say? She said, tough titty, said the kitty.
Right. And then she went to France.
Oh, there's the chaos we ordered.
That's right.
All right, there it is.
The chaos we ordered. Perfect. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, gentlemen. So we got a lot to talk about. We've been talking about on this show. Now, this very well could be. You guys have been saying it too, but this is the one time I'm doing the Barry Horowitz pat myself on the back because I had doubled down on saying Corenswet and Brosnahan would be announced as Superman and Lois.
I think we agreed, but you were with Penn. I think I'm giving full credit.
I had no inside information whatsoever. I swear I didn't.
No.
Brosnahan always made sense to me. I guess when we were looking at those lists and stuff, I just was like, I just don't know enough about Corenswet. Sorry, there we go. Say that again. Brosnahan always made sense to me based off what we were saying. I know I had my concerns one way or the other, but she's perfect for it. Like, she'll crush. Corenswet, I guess I just didn't know enough about.
I still don't.
Yeah.
I've
heard his voice now.
Yeah, I mean, that's about it. I know nothing about him. My biggest thing, as I've been telling you guys, is that I just always wanted Superman to be that, like, who is this person? Like, that's what Superman is. Who is this person? Like, that's why Roxy and I talked about it. My next prediction is that Nicholas Hoult will be announced as Lex Luthor.
I hear it's a Skarsgård.
That's what that's the three picks right now are Hoult or two of the Skarsgårds, Alexander Skarsgård or Bill. And I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, you can't go wrong with any one of them.
No, any of those are great. And I love also we've got the Hemsworth situation with Thor again. Like, it's brothers fighting for a superhero role. And I'd love, personally, I see more Alexander Skarsgård than Bill, but I don't not see Bill. Of the three, he's my pull. Also, Alex would be cool.
What did you say the last one?
His name's Lex. I like it.
Right.
It'd be cool if Alex was playing Lex.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. Isn't Lex's name short for Alexander Luthor?
I would love if Alexander Skarsgård played Alexander
Luthor.
Luthor, and
I
also
think
I've
Luthor.
always seen him as like bigger, like physically and more intimidating, and that would distinguish from a certain last one.
That is the big thing that Lex constantly does. Lex goes out of his way. He's not Batman levels,
Right.
But he to prove that he's better than Superman,
Yeah.
he's constantly putting himself in the peak condition he possibly could. So
You're
I
saying
think
he's not Mark
it's-
Zuckerberg?
Well, what Bill Skarsgård has done well is play like these maniacal kind of characters, right? Like you look at most notably, I think he was so fantastic in John Wick 4. I mean, he was so good in that movie, but he's a bit maniacal, right? And then I didn't see. Did you guys watch Succession?
No.
Okay, so I didn't either, but apparently Alexander Skarsgård is like straight up businessman Lex Luthor, and that's probably
so
what
good
got
in
him.
Northman. He's so good in Tarzan. I haven't seen him like this, but he's
those
so
are
good.
But those are
that's
different.
what I'm saying.
But
It's
that's
like,
what I'm saying. But the Succession part of it
Mm-hmm.
is probably where James Gunn was like, oh well, wait
This
a minute.
guy.
Yeah, that
Get
makes
him in
sense. Which is funny because my only anchor point for Alexander Skarsgård is True Blood. So I'm out here
Right.
being like,
That's so
I was
funny.
out here like he was playing. For those that are more Buffy folks, he was more kind of the Spike character,
Yeah.
where like he's evil, but then he's good, but then he's kind of the anti-hero bad
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
And so like I just knowing that he can kind of go to those depths at times.
That's the only thing you know of him?
I
More
know
or
he's
less.
been working, but for me, that's the last thing because I didn't watch Succession.
Right.
I didn't watch Northman, so like I just haven't.
Yeah, he was also in
Northman's
that.
so good.
He was in that movie with TV show, the limited series with was it Pretty Little Lies or whatever?
didn't see that either, but I know what you're
The
talking
one
about.
with Nicole Kidman and not Pretty Little Lies. I
Oh,
always say
Big-
that.
Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies. I always get it wrong. But
Pretty
yeah,
Little Liars, Big Little
right,
Lies.
right. And I said that last time to somebody else too, as a guest, and they were laughing at me. But he was really good in that. So like I said, all three of them. Because the only reason, I would say that Alexander Skarsgård's probably a good bet. But the reason I say Nicholas Hoult is because I feel like James Gunn is probably like, this guy is really good.
Been through the ringer.
He's been through the ringer with Batman and now Superman and everything else too.
Dude,
I think he's going to get
the
it.
rundown. It was he lost Batman to Pattinson. He lost Top Gun to
Miles.
To Miles.
He lost Mission Impossible to scheduling.
Oh, is
Mission
that what it was?
Impossible to
Yeah,
Who's he in
he's
that?
supposed to be that big bad in this one, the new one.
Who? Oh,
He's supposed to be the George Clooney looking dude.
Which one was that?
Have you seen the new Mission
Yeah, I
Impossible?
did. He
You
was
know,
supposed to be
most,
Issa
yeah, he was
Morales?
supposed to be like the most interesting man character guy, like the bad guy.
I thought Issa Morales was in the previous movies, wasn't he?
No, they just use flashbacks to make it look like he was.
Oh, okay.
But they were gonna have him as the
Oh,
like.
okay.
I don't want to give anything away, but that guy.
and now all that saying to now lose this, and he is so talented.
Yeah.
It's not for a lack of talent. He's clearly been working
Yeah.
because he's got the chops. It's just to keep being a bridesmaid and never a bride, just like that for someone that good sucks.
Yeah,
I-
but he's going to be okay in the fact, even if he doesn't get this,
Of course.
because I think he's just so good. He's got, I think, out of all of them, the most range.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
and the biggest career, like his name is more known. I think maybe Alexander Skarsgård's right there
Yeah,
on his
that
heels,
was
but
my
I feel
argument.
like Nick Holt would be like they're both on par. But I
Yeah.
feel like Nick Holt, you'd be like, oh, that guy.
It just depends. It depends on the only
Which
reason
demographic?
the only reason I'm going to give the edge to Skarsgård right now is because of how big Succession was.
Fair. That's recent. Yeah.
And that's so recent, right? And when I talked about it yesterday with Roxy, my first was, Holt's the bigger name because whether it's the
X-Men,
X-Men
Mad Max.
or the Great
Yeah.
or any of these things that he was in. But then it was like, well, it just depends on the audience, right? And Succession's such a big show. I think and True Blood as well. I think Alexander Skarsgård's probably the bigger name, but not by much.
Right.
And I
And
think
Bill Skarsgård has the mania, so like you said, it's anybody's bet. And Bill
anybody's
Skarsgård was
bet.
sitting behind me at the Flash premiere, so I'm wondering
Oh.
if that was anything.
because he was there.
He was
yeah.
the
I
DC
mean, yeah.
obviously everybody can go into anything, but I like now that when the name came out, I
He's
was like,
probably taking meetings. I wouldn't be
Everybody's
surprised if
taking
he
meetings.
shows up at the meeting and he's like, hey,
Come
if
through
you're
the
around,
Flash.
come check out the
that's
Flash.
all I thought of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just thought like, oh, maybe
Sure.
he's talking to James Gunn, but it was definitely when the names came out, I was
Absolutely,
like, it was
absolutely. Same way Henry Cavill was taking meetings at that one point with Marvel.
Right.
When he was at the Marvel premiere.
was at Avatar.
Right. He was at That's right.
It was
He
the
was at
Disney
Avatar.
premiere.
He was at
And then it was the
something else,
next day they announced it. Because I
Right.
remember I saw him and I was like,
Yeah. So-
like we were the last group of people to see him as Superman.
too. Yeah, and they're all in,
He's doing
in the
okay.
circle. So I think that, yeah.
Well, the other thing I was going to say that I think makes sense and does sort of leave the door open potentially. Corenswet looks like a young Cavill.
Well, that was the funny thing. He's got to look. This is the one thing that I've been kind of pushing back on that a little bit too, where I've seen a lot of videos about that, and even when I initially saw him for the first time, I said this guy looks like Cavill. My pushback against myself and other people is that, yeah, of course he's got a bit of a Cavill look, but he's got a bit of
A Reeves look.
Reeves
Ralph
look.
look.
He's got a Superman
looks a
look.
lot like Tom Welling.
He's got a Tom Welling. He's got a Superman look.
It's
and
almost
that's,
like dark hair and
when
bright eyes and a big chin.
When you put all these guys together, whether what's the cat's name who's on Clark and Lois now, or whatever the Superman.
Tyler
Lois.
Hoechlin.
Okay, so Tyler Hoechlin, Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill, Dean Cain, all of these guys. Like all of them together, they all look like they're cut from a Superman cloth, right? Like, and do certain ones have certain similarities more than the next? Like, Ralph looked a little bit more like Christopher Reeve.
But there's that shot of Henry Cavill where he's flying and it looks like it's a Christopher Reeve frame.
Right.
That
So that
Zack Snyder was like, that wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
That's how much they look alike.
They're all cut from the same cloth. So this whole thing, the one part of it of now, I don't know, acting wise, if you look at the acting wise, you're like, he's exactly the same as Henry Cavill in the same way. Then you can go, well, why didn't you just keep Cavill? But the look. People, and I know you didn't say this, but some people are going, why don't you just keep Cavill if you're going to get someone who looks just like him? I think, to me, that's silly.
Also, people are like, why didn't they just do that? And why is he the same age? I'm like, well, he's the age he was when he got cast, and so was Brandon. So is Cavill. Why are you mad at this age?
Yeah.
Also, like, people are like, he's not big enough. I'm like, when they cast Cavill, he was the same size. You
Gal
look at the screen
Gadot,
test, he is a tiny guy.
and Gal Gadot was significantly smaller when she was cast.
She was rail thin.
Henry Cavill was smaller than me when he got cast.
Yeah.
Like, Cavill put on like 100 pounds.
It's a number of things. We are dealing with an alternate universe here. We're resetting everything, so we're dealing with a different universe. So same but different. That's fine. On top of the fact that, again, we've admitted this. Cavill's not old, but you're telling a young Superman story, so you need someone that looks like the younger version of him. It's not going to make sense to plug him into that situation. And on top of the only reason I brought that up is, like I was mentioning about the door being open. If they decide to do some sort of story with a more, because there's plenty of them where Superman is a little more grizzled, a little more like worn out by the world. He's still himself, but he's a little more cutthroat. You can always leave the door open to have Cavill come in, step in for a situation, but you exactly. But stay focused on this new kid.
Absolutely. And as far as the only thing that I would say that I think is silly for them to do, and I know why they did it because they have things in the can, they want people to see their movies, and that clearly isn't really working for them. But I still think it was a mistake, and I love James Gunn's casting. I like what he's doing so far. I think it was a massive mistake to go, well, Cavill, he's out. That guy, he's out. We're not using him anymore. He's done. He didn't say it that way, but in a certain aspect, we're just going in a different direction. No. Well, everybody else too, right? Well, no. Ezra Miller could potentially show up again. We haven't made any decisions on that. Well, but what about Aquaman? Still possible. And Gal? Yeah, well, doors open. And Ben? Well, we'll see. No, cut them all. Because if you're gonna, because that is when you can piss off, and I think rightfully so, Henry Cavill fans are like, well, wait a minute, why just him?
I think taking it a step further, it's all of his properties are safe.
Right, Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad, Peacemaker. Right.
They announced today that there's no The Suicide Squad 2.
So but Peacemaker there is.
Right, Peacemaker there is.
But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think what would have made the most sense. Did they say that Peacemaker and Waller are now Elseworlds, or are they saying that Viola?
I don't know.
I would assume
it's still confusing. Still,
if they Elseworlds it, and like we want to finish telling this story real quick, because like the truth is, they're part of this whole reset. They had, while there were ideas obviously that Zach had, and what the story that was being told specifically with this kind of crew is kind of done.
Right.
So I'll give you that. If you were like, we were already in the middle of shooting Peacemaker season 2, so we want to wrap that up. I'll give you that as a thing. But I agree. There's a situation where you almost should have just been like.
I think Flash helped that happen. I think Flash's numbers are now like, it's not a rolling reboot. I feel like that made it a reboot. Like, I feel like those numbers are a reset. So I feel like Elseworlding Amanda Waller's The Suicide Squad universe with Peacemaker is the way to do it.
It's just too confusing.
I had to say something to you, man, because I know you've been cutting out the Instagram reels of the show. Man, people get mad when we say anything, bro. Like, well, I just
the internet's mad.
No, I know, because I simply posed the question. I said, I think the Flash is an A-list superhero. There are general populist people that I'm like, apparently didn't know, and they were like, "How dare you? Everybody knows the Flash. You're a dumbass." And I'm like,
you know why I think you're hilarious? You've read the comment.
Well, the problem is I gotta turn off my notifications.
Yeah.
I just forget to do that. So then all of a sudden I open up Instagram and it's just like 50 comments. Where's this guy?
Dude, I literally took Twitter off my phone, the app off, so I have to search it. I can't even have it on my home screen. So I have to like manually search it. So I only do it at the gym.
YouTube's different for me because I respond to the comments. I talk to people, and it's easy for me to throw people out of my store, and if they're turds, they're gone. Yeah. And like I love my favorites. Though people don't realize, I love when dumb, really dumb, stupid, dumb people come over, and they post like this whole long thing, and they use these words that I've always no one in the comment section ever sees it. It goes straight to the spam folder, and I don't even look at it. Like, so they've spent all this time, and I just delete them all like in bulk, and they're just gone. So you spent all this time and thinking like, I'm gonna get this guy, I'm gonna bring this up, dude, and it's like, and you're gone. But Instagram, it's kind of like when I drop a reel, I go, here's this, bye. And then I run.
That's the problem, because I'm trying to build that. I mean, I appreciate it. Thank you for tagging me, because it does help drive some traffic over there. But at the same time, I'm always like, I finally responded to one of the people about our All-Star comment with Marvel, because he's like, what are you guys, ridiculous? Hawkeye was there. There's Loki. Yeah. What about WandaVision? And I was well, Hawkeye was mid. It was fine.
Hawkeye's
but also
like
Jeremy Renner
Stockton,
is
kinda
gone for a while because he's having to recover from his injuries. So that's
he's
not
on the bench.
Thing. He's fully on the bench.
Yeah.
As far as WandaVision goes, for a lot of people, Multiverse of Madness really effed up a lot of stuff that WandaVision did.
I did see one guy the other day, and I was just I didn't even respond to it because it wasn't like it wasn't really like a negative comment. It was just something. I just don't like definitive tell me what to do things. And this guy was like, guys, not everyone likes sports, so don't do that anymore. I
saw that comment.
I wanted to go. I just was gonna write no, but I didn't. I was like, if we want to, just guess what? We have time codes, so you want to move past it. I don't think you should. Coy's not like a massive sports guy, but it's just a matter. It's just a reference.
It's also a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. It's like don't tell us
also,
not to do
anyone
stuff.
telling anyone how to do their job is madness to me. Like I really,
it's like you don't have to. You don't have to like it. You can. You say that it doesn't respond to me, guys. Like, but I appreciate what you're doing, or just I'm gonna move on. Like, don't tell us not to do it. It's silly.
My two favorite interactions of the week were one person telling me, when I said I'm really excited for Rebel Moon because I'm really excited for Zack Snyder to have his own IP and to make something good. And I was just genuinely like, I can't wait for this. It's going to be for the better of all of us. And then without like 30 seconds later, someone with the name like Rebel Cultist was like, this is more toxic than anything. I'm like, praising your guy?
Yeah.
Like being excited. And then
but I think you knew that was coming.
I really didn't that time.
Come on.
I say fuck a lot more if I want it to be aggressive.
But this actually brings me up to another thing. But this brings me up to something I wanted to think about, that I wanted to talk to you, because I started thinking about you guys.
Athletic Greens?
No, not yet.
I was like, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. No, this is for real. Like, I remember because right now, for the most part, Star Wars has kind of been like a dormant thing. People kind of punch it in the face a few times and walk away, like the trollish people, but they don't really. It's not. They don't have enough of the thing to really go after it as much as they did in like 2017 to like 2020. They were really going after it. I mean, they still take shots. And it's still in out there. Marvel and the comic book sphere right now feels the most like that time. The comic book movies feel like that right now.
Feels bigger to me. Is it?
Because it feels like even I saw people like. I saw someone the other day because we saw Mission Impossible. I can't. It's just social reaction right now, but like it's funny. I said that my initial social reaction on the movie was that I think if you're going there for a big blockbuster action film for stunts and all that, it delivers about 1,000%.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same kind of clever Mission Impossible feel that the other ones had.
The same experience.
Yeah, and so but I will say this. As looking at it, and I think that I kind of analyzing it, if I was to see either that movie, Indiana Jones, or Flash, which one would I watch again? I'd watch Mission again. Because I feel, because like I said, I think that it's a really well done film, and I think it's a clear part one, as opposed to some of these other movies that like. And the end of Flash is okay, but I really like the Flash a lot. We've talked about it. But I saw some what's the word? Oh yeah, dick bag on wheels. And I saw some guy. He's like, this is the guy that liked the Flash. So don't listen to him when he talks about Mission Impossible. I'm like, hey, dumb person.
You want to put it solo?
But it's just a matter of, this is me saying like, look, I'll stand by it. I really liked the movie, and my favorite was, well, you don't want to lose your access. I flew my ass to Vegas on my own dime. Nobody flew me to Vegas.
The access.
It's access. What access did I get for going to the Flash? But anyway, the point is, people were like, it's this thing that the same thing for Star Wars stuff, how it used to be like, well, now they're coming. They never used to go after DC. Now, I guess because Snyder's not a part of it, now everybody goes after DC too. And I'm just so glad that for the majority, minus this, I just don't pay attention to it. It's just like you
It's
can't.
a gift.
It took a while.
Well, so that's the funny part. You remember only like maybe 2 months ago, Cole was like, "Oh yeah, I love going for them trolls. Come on, baby, let's go. I want to fight.
And
Let's
then every
go."
week was
And-
in the car.
It's not worth it. It's not
no,
worth it.
Last week,
Yeah.
he goes, "I may have to get off the internet."
I told you it's exhausting. It's just
It really is. It's
just-
aging me.
but it's just not worth it. And overall, it's like but you can if someone again, it's just a matter of how you can just tell from an intelligent person to just someone who's purely stupid. If you write and say something along the lines of, "Well, look, if this guy liked this movie, you can't take him serious." Like, no, what you can say in a situation like that, what this person just should have been, I guess, gone to school. But like what you can learn in school is that it will tell you how to interact and talk to someone. And you go basically like this: "Hey, interesting that you said that because I didn't like The Flash. And when you said you liked The Flash, I was curious about it and I didn't like it. So we didn't line up on the same there. So I might disagree with you going into Mission Impossible if that's the case, because maybe we're just looking at things different." I would go, fair. Totally
Absolutely.
fair. Not completely accurate.
You're implying
but-
discourse is an option.
right.
But also just from the standpoint of like, I think what people keep forgetting above all
Is that
else,
there's a lot of dumb people out there.
Well, there's that.
Is
That's
that
how
it's a human on the other side of that tweet?
Yeah.
My favorite, my dad's favorite quote is never underestimate the stupidity of the American people. I think it's I'm gonna get this wrong. It's not Eisenhower.
Well, I don't know if he was American,
Lyndon.
this guy, but it very well could have
Fair.
been. Yeah.
I think it was an LBJ quote. Don't quote me on that. But just the idea that people keep forgetting as far as us all being humans. So we've all had different experiences, which means that certain things resonate with us more than others. So like, for example, you loved Black Adam, or at least you loved it enough.
I didn't love it. No.
You loved it enough that it was a popcorn flick that you said you
I
really
enjoyed watching it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
You really
I
enjoyed
enjoyed
it.
watching it.
Where
It's a late 90s movie.
Whereas for me, I was just kind of like, this is too backwards for me. I just wasn't like
Fair.
I just
Right.
didn't enjoy it.
Right.
And that doesn't make either of your opinions lesser. And that's what
we
drives
both
me mad.
understood what we were saying. Like I said, there's certain movies that people can see, like, and I'm going, I don't know how you came to that conclusion and how you see it that way. I respect it, but I don't see it. And then there's other times going, oh, I totally understand that. Like, and Black Adam is a totally understand. Like, I watched that movie going, because I love the music and everything else too, and I watched that. And the same thing with Ant-Man. I walked out of that going, most people are not going to like that. I think a lot of people are not going to like this movie. But I like the science fiction aspect of it. The end is atrocious. It's so sloppy. But like, and I think you can acknowledge that and you can talk about it. But it's just a matter of, I don't know. It's social media and it's the way people talk to each other. Where that same moron with half a brain. That same person, if you put them in a room with me talking, they wouldn't say it that way.
Probably not.
No, they wouldn't. He would say, "Wait a minute," but he probably would be like, you may be a little more aggressive. "Hey, wait a minute, you like the Flash, so but you didn't like this one? How come?" And then I would say, "Well, I actually did like this one a lot. I just expect a lot out of my Mission Impossible movies." And
I'd say overall that's the case. I did have someone try to fist fight me at a concert once because I didn't like a movie, and it was like
Really?
like physical altercation, like tried to fight me, and like it was over. Like
What
I never
movie?
give bad opinions, and so they were like, "You like everything," and you didn't like that. That weird like statutory movie, Pineapple. What was the one Paul Thomas Anderson did that got like Oscar buzz and then died out?
Oh, not Pineapple Pizza.
Yeah, but Licorice Pizza. I just didn't like it. It wasn't for
it's
me.
not good.
And I like said so. And this person literally was like, "You just didn't understand." And like literally like shoved me. And then he brought his girlfriend over. Was like, "This is the guy I was telling you about." I was like, "Are we about to have a greaser
That's
fight?" And it was in
problems.
person. And that's what I worry about with socialization.
That's
Like that's
problems.
intense.
That's the problem. We
problems.
haven't been socializing.
And especially after 3 years
No, but
like
there's
of lockdown
there's
and
also
everything
been
else.
This thing where unfortunately movies have become hand in hand with politics, and it was never really. And movies have always been political. Yeah, I know. The movies in general have been political. Of course, they have been. I mean, Star Wars. A lot of movies have been political for sure, but the way people handle them
Has not always been
way
so
more
tribal.
reflective of the way that, especially America, is with politics. And it's like your team against my team. And it's never the way that politics were supposed to be set up in the first place. It was supposed to be, let's come to a common ground, even if we don't agree. It's
Right.
certainly not that way now. And it should be the same thing with movies.
I think the other
agree.
problem is, honestly, it's not just we don't know how to interact in person. People have lost the ability to have nuance in the way that they speak.
Yeah.
And so when they do speak of stuff, I'm not saying this is what you did at all, but just as an example, if someone was like, Licorice Pizza was fucking garbage, that was trash, it's the worst movie I've ever seen. If you were like, yo, I watched this movie, I think this is terrible, I got nothing out of it, I did not find that is one thing versus this is the stupidest movie ever, and if you don't like it, you're a dumbass, or if you don't like this movie, then that's the problem. Nobody's using nuance when they speak.
It is true, but I think it goes back, there's two things that come out of that, right? And the first, I say this all the time too, and I have to constantly remind myself too, you don't know where people are in their lives when they're writing certain comments. So I also don't know, as dumb as that person might be that wrote that thing, they also might have had the worst day of their life. And maybe the worst thing happened, they said, all right, you know what? And then ran away. The other side is that there are some just dumb people out there, and there are people out there that have access, instead of, writing, hey, okay, look, I'm very curious and I want to ask you a question. So the question is, I've been watching you guys for a bit and I don't agree with you. And a lot of times I'm buying into the fact that why is it? Like, let's say someone goes, "You Coy, you freaking shill. That's all I can say because I got nothing else. And I'm going to write shill. And then I'm going to put my hands up like Rocky because I think I won." And you didn't win anything. Instead of saying, I've watched you in the past. And to me, it seems like, and I'm clearly not saying any of this, but I'm just speaking.
No, I am.
Okay, but it's like, Coy, this is what I notice about you. When I see you going and taking pictures on Instagram, and I see you talk about your experiences with meeting these people. I feel that might affect your experience when you see these movies, and so it's hard for me to take you seriously inside this. Can you convince me otherwise? Now, you first would be like, well, okay. I mean, if someone presented it that way,
I'd actually engage.
You'd engage because you're like, well, wait. Instead of saying shill because that's what I heard other people say, and that's what other YouTube channels say, and I heard it, and it stuck.
I like these 5 letters. These 5 letters make me feel strong.
And I feel like it hurts. So here we go. And it's like, you go right to spam, guy.
Yeah, and nuance is how you engage in discourse. And actually, that brings me to one of the news stories I wanted to talk about this week. I don't know if it's in the rundown, but speaking of nuanced conversation, I think we are the only channel, like, of anywhere I work with, the Jonathan Major stuff that happened this week. I think this is the only place that we all were like, hey, let's get facts first.
Yeah.
And we didn't immediately take our pitchforks out. And a lot of people did, and we're monetizing off someone's real life trauma. I would argue that we can fight over movies all we want, but as soon as real life human beings are involved and it's about their real life, that is not acceptable. And profiting off of people's horrors. And it seems like things are going in the direction of like, hey, we said we should get facts first, and it looks like Jonathan Majors might have been in the right. So, like, we should still get more facts, more data, but it is good to see that this is going in a way that.
But it's also, we had a conversation about this too, where people are like, well, wait a minute. Ezra Miller's getting off the hook and Majors isn't. What the hell? It's like, Marvel didn't get rid of him yet.
Right.
That never happened. Now the media and people were like, and there were some jobs that Majors, they were like, we're gonna back off for now. He wasn't booked on. They didn't start filming, and
right.
So it's whether it's right or wrong. They didn't have a. They could have. We're gonna stay out of this for now until this stuff clears up, and that's right as a business. But the idea of like Marvel, Ezra was able to continue on. First of all, Ezra shot all that stuff, and I don't like the way that they handled Ezra in general. They didn't really address it. I think Andy Muschietti and Barbara Muschietti, the only two who even addressed it at all, and that's such a conflict of interest thing anyway, because
how are they going to address it?
They were working with Ezra Miller for so long; they have a relationship with them.
Well, and there's also a lot writing on that movie, whether or not the DCU was ending.
Of course,
that has a lot to do.
Absolutely,
but I just think nuance is really important when it comes to real life,
absolutely,
and how we handle that news. I think this was the only network that we talked about like facts, maybe. Like, and I think that we're now getting some of them, and it's different than a lot of people painted.
And you have to see. You cannot, and that is also one of these things where it's just social media, everything else is like, oh wait, what's this? It's a rock. That person might be in trouble. What do I need to do? I'm gonna throw it at him.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because I'm supposed to.
Because clicks.
What do you mean you're supposed to? Well, because everyone else is going after them, so I'm gonna throw a rock.
Right.
And it's like, but what if they didn't do anything? Yeah, but that's not what everyone else is doing. Yeah. Throw rocks. And it's like, no, you don't throw rocks because you don't know yet and it's not just the Jonathan Majors situation. That's everything. That's social media. That is just common thing on social media. Like in a Schmodown, I saw it all of the time, and people that we worked with. Someone either got in trouble or something. and they go after him. It's like, why? Because we're supposed to.
Oh,
I would miss so much of it, and I'd come to a taping, and there was all this drama, and I was like, "What happened?" It was just, it's insane.
Yeah, but I'm not just talking about I'm not just talking about in-house. I'm just talking about in general, where because I don't deal with all these personalities now, but it's like there's just like, and maybe it's a generational thing. I have no idea, but it drives me crazy. It's just like you said, wait, and also, and then going back to the initial part of this conversation. Discuss, have a conversation. That's why we open up the comment section for us. Is that I never want this to be like, oh, everybody's so great. No, but like if you don't agree with us, please. That's the part of it.
Right.
It's like well, hey guys, look, I know that you guys are talking about David Corenswet. I've seen the guy act, and I don't like what he did so far, and maybe it'll be better, but I'm not into it. So and
Robert Pattinson. We had a very long discussion. I was like, I'm not about it for these reasons. You said check this out, and then let's see what happens.
And that was in person.
That was in person.
And then we talked. But I mean, it's harder when I will say this, especially from the audience that watches this show, this channel in general, 95% of the comments and conversation that come in here are exactly what I'm talking about. People who are commenting in here, and like I said, people who don't agree and have other things. The only time that it hasn't been is only when I go to like my spam folder, and I just delete. Anyway, I don't read any of them. I just delete it. If it goes to spam, it's gone because you don't win here. Like you can go and post it and go to Twitter. I don't check Twitter anyway, so you can go and you want to go nuts. You want to call all the names in the world. It just doesn't. It's so. It definitely was different back then. Like there was other things that people still do, and they try to like use you as an example of like, well, that person is working for. Someone said to the other day, I couldn't remember. Am I a show for Disney or am I a show for DC? Or do I hate everything because Kathleen Kennedy's in it? Or I just like, or I don't like Marvel anymore. It's like nobody has.
Humans are complex. That's
what I mean. So it's like you can't. It'll drive you nuts. And it might even make you realize that you might need BetterHelp.
There it is!
BetterHelp, everybody. BetterHelp. If you want to check out BetterHelp, I'm not even kidding you. BetterHelp is fantastic. I was on the phone today talking about how much I love them and so excited that they're back again. I got Roxy Stryer, who is a big advocate now. People in my family are using it, and they're amazing. So let me tell you a little bit more about BetterHelp. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. I'm such a fan of BetterHelp. They've helped out people in my life. I am really excited to be working with them again. I was hoping that they would come back, and I'm glad that you guys have been using them as well. That's why they're back. And I'm so glad that we were introduced to them, because if you didn't know, it's really important for you to emphasize on yourself from time to time. It really is. Sometimes we're always thinking about other people. You don't think about yourself enough, and you have to, because sometimes you feel stretched thin. Sometimes there's a lot going on. You have no one to talk to. And I'm glad that BetterHelp allows you to do that. It's entirely online. It's convenient. It's flexible. It's suited to your schedule. So if you are thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. You just fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and then switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. So find more balance with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/bigthing today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. All right, everybody, BetterHelp. This episode is indeed sponsored by BetterHelp, and I'm so glad that it is. I love them. They're great. I was so excited when they were like, yeah, they want to come back and do more spots. And I was like, good, because more people need to know about them. So help yourself out. Use BetterHelp. Let's shift. Let's get to some news, because I don't think we're going to be able to cover all these topics to be honest. Sometimes this is what we do on the show. Sometimes we go to
chicka,
yeah. Let's talk about Corenswet. All right. The new Superman says this. This is from Dark Horizons. The article itself says, no bigger entertainment news will come out this week than the announcement of David Corenswet as Superman and Rachel Brosnahan as the next Lois Lane in James Gunn's upcoming Superman legacy film at Warner Brothers Pictures. He's 6'4". Interesting. Corenswet broke through a few years back with Ryan Murphy's Netflix series Hollywood and The Politician before supporting turns in HBO's We Own This City and Pearl. It was around the time of promoting those Murphy shows in 2019 that Corenswet's name first became linked with the role. At the time, it wasn't clear if Cavill would return, and the young actor's Clark Kent-style look were often commented upon in the interviews and reviews. While promoting Hollywood in 2019, the actor spoke with EW about comments that he had similar looks to Cavill. That old quote is doing the rounds again this week, thanks to Variety. And the actor responded to the question with this answer. It came to my attention before the internet got a hold of me, but my pie-in-the-sky ambition is definitely to play Superman. I would love to see someone do an upbeat throwback take on Superman. I love the Henry Cavill dark and gritty take, but I'd love to see the next one be very bright and optimistic. 4 years on, he's fulfilled that wish by landing the role and doing so in a project which Gunn has previously said will lean towards the optimistic ideal of Superman being who is an alien, but one of deep humanity, kindness, and compassion. And then also there was this thing that came out too. This was from 2020. Canal B said a Superman reboot. This is now making the rounds, by the way. This is like a Nostradamus type tweet. A Superman reboot starring David Corenswet as Superman and Rachel Brosnahan and Lois Lane. Let it be linked to Matt Reeves' Batman franchise, not directly, just in the same universe. Well, I don't think that part of it is going to be, but this guy was able to call the fact that was your cast, and that was 3 years ago that person called it. So good on them. But it's pretty awesome that Corenswet was talking in 2019.
Yeah, I love that. 4 years ago.
Yeah, but the fact that A, he wanted to do it, and then B, that he wants to do like the upbeat version of it. And I think a lot of us want to see that. The funny thing is, I was talking about this yesterday, there's never been a massive, I mean, I shouldn't say never, since Christopher Reeve, there has not been a massive Superman hit. Now, Man of Steel did well. But at the time, people were like, oh, it didn't do that big number we wanted it to. It did well. It certainly made money. And Henry Cavill was beloved as Superman. But a big kind of, mega
take over
blockbuster takeover, like, oh man, that movie, because Man of Steel was like, there were people going, oh yeah, it did okay, it did fine. I remember talking about it on Schmoes and everything. Like, yeah, it did good.
Yeah.
But we haven't had a big blockbuster.
We haven't had a Dark
Superman
Knight. We haven't had an Iron Man. We haven't had a like this year is his. And
Right.
when I think of DC, it is Superman's image, but it's Batman movies. Like when I think of a big DC movie, it's Batman, and that's how they've been making their comics for a while. I think this is the chance for Superman to take that back. I honestly think this casting's great. I think Rachel Brosnahan's name is really strong. I love how strong they're leaning into the Lois Lane of it. I said on Real Rejects, and I got a ton of guff, speaking of people being people, but I think that Lois Lane is one of the most important casting decisions in all of DC, because Lois humanizes Clark, and Clark's humanity is tied to making that character. But I mean, misogynists are allowed. But it's insane that I was like, it's important to cast well for Lois Lane, because
100%.
that might be the cornerstone of the most important character in the entire universe.
Humanity.
And without that, Clark isn't Clark.
Yeah,
and
right.
Bon Pa Kent shaped his
love.
youth.
It's
and
love
that's Clark.
to show. Yeah.
It's insanely important. And I think Rachel Brosnahan has that Pulitzer
Major.
Prize-winning language. She has that diction. She can speak Amy Sherman Palladino, the writer of Miss Maisel. Like, she's the exact right call, and that's only going to elevate Corenswet. And the fact that he's 6'4" and she's 5'3".
Is Miss Maisel writer for part of Superman?
No, but that language. I'm saying like she speaks like Lois, and he's a foot and an inch taller than her.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's no. You don't need to apologize. You're on a roll, baby.
I get excited.
Yeah, you did get excited. I mean, you were spot on. I mean, they teased it a baby bit in the Snyderverse about like, it's Lois, you gotta save her. But if you go and look at any of the stories where he does like fully tilt, Injustice being one of those big examples, it was the combined loss of Lois, his future baby, and all of Metropolis, but it's specifically Lois and the fact that he like killed Lois by his own hand because the Joker went too far.
Yeah.
That breaks him.
Yeah.
So if you do not have Lois, like you said, as his anchor to humanity, it's actually why I thought the take by Sasha in The Flash and what they did, this idea of why would I bother with humanity? What about these people? The way they've treated me, the way they look at me, why would I care? And essentially,
Well, she needed something too inside of that. I mean, I don't want to give too many spoilers for The Flash, but like she needed something that ultimately made her go, oh,
right,
okay, I get it, because she knew nothing except pain.
And I like that she also tied it into her heritage. There's a line about, well, he doesn't represent us. And I'm not going to give too much away, but like, I also love that it was both a defense-offense, and that really shaped Shasha's Supergirl. Like, we've talked a lot about how she didn't have a lot of screen time, but every time she did, it was huge.
Yeah.
You can do so much with Superman getting, hopefully, multiple movies and building out and all these things, but making it optimistic and full of hope, I think, is what we need now more than it reflecting. I always say, like, Superman should be what we aspire to but cannot reach, instead of it reflecting our times. That's not Superman. Superman isn't amongst us.
It's also from the standpoint that by the nature of his abilities and everything else, it's extremely boring to just look at Superman just being all powerful.
Right.
It has to be, and it's why I typically do not I don't not super into Superman because I'm like, I don't find something necessarily to relate to. But those moments, like All-Star Superman, for example, are those moments where it's like both because he's not, he has become more godlike in that book, but he's also mortal as hell.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, time means something to him, and now spending time with Lois, spending time with his loved ones means like there's a little bit more. So the Superman stories, I always heard the quote, a good Superman story is a story where it's about what Superman should do, not what Superman can do.
Yeah.
It is specifically looking at he has to deal with the trolley problem, save Lois, save all of Metropolis. It's they just murdered Pa Kent. Does he go full rage mode right now, or does he go, no, that's not what I was taught. I'm better than, you know what I'm saying? Those are the stories that make him interesting.
One of the things, like I forget where you guys stand on it, but I actually really like Man of Steel. The one thing that Roxy argues against, a lot of people argue against, which I actually agree with. I understand why they did it at the time, and it's a different take on it. So I like when they spin off things differently sometimes. I think you need to have Pa Kent, if you're even going to mention it, you got to have him die naturally. It's the whole point of Superman
can't save everyone.
Save everyone.
Yeah.
Like, so my daughter, my 5-year-old, she likes when I'll tell her stories at night, but I tell them, like, whether it's fables but they're from movies and shit too. I've done it from like wrestling tales and everything too. And I did the Goonies once, and last night she goes, "Tell me a story from like movie." So I told her the story of Superman last night. And as I'm telling her the story, I'm like telling her about like how Pa Kent left, and I'm going, yeah, I didn't choose the one where he went out to the tractor and told him to stay back. I was like, no, he went, and Superman couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Speaking of this is kind of diverting. You want to hear an all moment, by the way. This is to show you the innocence of children, right? I take my daughter on this walk around the block. We go
See the tree?
Not good. No, not yet. We haven't done that one yet. But we walk. I told that story on stage. It was great. It was like a 9-minute bit.
I saw some tweets about it.
Yeah. So anyway, I was walking. We would take this long walk, and we used to walk past this gate where there were these two older dogs, like little dogs like this big, and they've since left us, right? So now there's like a new little dog there, and so I was walking with my 5-year-old, and I said to her, I was like, there's there's the little dog there too. She's like, I said, yeah, the older dogs aren't with us anymore. And my daughter goes, are they extinct?
Oh, that's precious.
I said, yeah, I guess they're extinct, right?
Jurassic Park.
Oh my
that's
God.
so cute.
It's so cute.
Can I ask y'all a question? Because I haven't seen Man of Steel in a long time. Was it a situation? Was it a trolley problem situation, or Pa Kent just said don't?
No,
say
he
it?
didn't want him to reveal that he was Superman, but there was so many ways.
It was like
he
a
could have.
hurricane, and then and the dog was out there too. He saved the dog, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's not great.
so that's my problem. If you put him in a situation where Pa Kent is like, "Don't worry about me. That's a bus full of kids. Go save the kids."
Right.
And him being like, "No, I have that." That
But
works.
not sit there and watch me die. Right.
That didn't work.
Don't reveal. Yeah. I mean, so. I hope that they use because it was always the most tragic, like the Christopher Reeve one, when he's like, oh no, like he knows, and he just drops, and he can't do anything,
And keep him around for more in the movie. I'd love Mom and Pa Kent to make it through the first one. I think they can.
I mean, I think
they're in the comics. They're around.
Yeah, but that's if you're playing in Smallville for that long. Like he's going.
There's a lot of him going home.
They're on the farm,
reset.
and he goes and like, I need to see them to find my humanity again. They're like alive.
When does he die?
I mean, in some continuities, he's alive now.
When he's Superman?
Yeah, like deeply.
Yeah, it's
so he goes back to
Okay.
Smallville to like check in. But you know the movies.
I don't care. It's just a matter. It's just a matter. Tell me a good story.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just-
what I'm
but
saying. It's like it's
absolutely.
different to keep them alive. That's a
Yeah.
different take that you didn't even know about. So that'd be good
Yeah.
for new audiences.
Nonetheless, we're gonna have that Superman in 2025. We'll figure out whether the Comic-Con thing's happening or not. Probably
Today.
Well, real time. Yeah, today I guess we'll find out for sure. If SAG strikes are probably not going to be there. If they don't, then Warner Brothers will probably be there, and you're probably going to get Lex Luthor there as well. Okay, final. Let's call it right now. Who gets cast as Lex Luthor? Winston.
I think they cut Hole to break. He's talented. I think he gets it. There's something specific. I'm thinking about his beast moments where he really loses it. I think he's going to tap into that. I think he gets Lex Luthor.
I'm going Skarsgård Lex. I'm thinking Alexander Skarsgård. He's got the size. He's got the build. He hasn't done the superhero thing really yet, and I think he'd be really well suited for James Gunn's sensibilities.
I think you got to Good pick there, Coy, but I'm going to go with Winston. I'm going to say Nicholas Hoult gets the break. So what do you guys think? Do you think Holt's going to get it? Do you think it's going to be Alexander Skarsgård? Because the only reason I think that Coy might have the edge here is because of the Succession thing. I think that's going to be weighing on a lot of people's minds, but I'm sticking with my guns and I'm going Holt. What do you guys think? Go ahead and let me know. Staying with DC, and we'll talk about it briefly. Let's talk about the Flash continuing to sniff farts. All right, nobody wants to see the Flash. It is past its production budget, though, so there's that. A movie that the three of us really enjoyed. Doesn't seem like anybody else really did, and nobody else really saw it. This is from Mark Cassidy over a Comic Book Movie. It's a minor victory, but this movie will take any W that it can get at this stage. It's so true. Like, there's so many movies that are so much worse than this that this movie should have done better than it did, but it's only sits at 91 million domestic. That's a stink bomb in a bottle, guys. 123 million from overseas territories. It's about 250 million with estimated marketing costs about 150 million. The movie would have to gross twice its budget just to break even. Good luck. Analysts believe that The Flash will struggle to hit 300 million by the end of its theatrical run. It's got decent reviews, 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a focused effort to promote the feature as one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. That was the biggest mistake that they made. It was a really big mistake. We'll get into that in a second. Audiences just don't seem to be interested in Barry Allen's story, a sign of things to come for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and Blue Beetle. Early word is that James Wan's sequel is not very positive, and while we've heard better things about Blue Beetle, he's a relatively obscure character. There's a lot right now. I mean, I'll tell you what, and we'll get into this too. If I'm anybody doing a comic book movie right now, I'm nervous. If I'm Anthony Mackie, I'm terrified. Because this is and we'll talk about Mackie.
I'm Corenswet. I'm terrified. He's got the biggest underwear to fill.
Corenswet is basically holding the new DCU on him and Gunn.
And he's the face
together.
of it. And Gunn, not as many people are gonna know.
On his back,
very broad.
On his very broad 6'4" shoulders.
100%, and that's he's gonna be. He's got a little bit more to hold there with. James Gunn, because James Gunn's going to put everything he's got into this thing. So that's one thing. But as far as the Flash goes, man, like they tried everything that they could to really promote it, and understanding that, okay, because this is the scenario we talked about months ago. You've got James Gunn Safran coming in, and then you got Zoloft, who deserves Zoloft right now. And he says, hey, I know you guys are going to have your plan. You're going to announce your plan. We're good to go. But we got a couple movies in the can that we got to sell. We got to try to make money on these things no matter what. So whatever we can do, let's do it. And I believe that, and rightfully so, that Gunn loves Muschietti. I love Muschietti. Yeah. I think Muschietti did a really good job directing, minus the CGI and the way that he handled the CGI, what he talked about. That was on purpose. Stop that. That's part one. But this thing that they started doing, of the greatest superhero movie ever told or ever made, that James Gunn, don't say that. Even if you feel that, don't say it. You can't say that right now, because if it doesn't, it hurts your validity as the freaking DCU. Because I like the movie, you guys like the movie a lot, but a lot of people don't. So if you're trying to sell your new DCU to these people who don't like it, and they're going, wait a minute, this guy thought that this is the best superhero over Dark Knight?
Yeah.
Over his own you don't bring up Marvel while talking about DC, but over your own creations, which I would argue all three of the Guardians are better than the Flash.
Yeah, it was a bad thing to say. And it's one thing. Tom Cruise goes out and says it. Who cares? Fine. That's great. Tom Cruise out saying it's like, oh, look, so-and-so's on the trail, and they took a picture with that celebrity, and he kissed the baby, and they had fun. Great. But when you're the head of DC right now, you can't do that. And I think this is why sometimes he's amazing on social media. Other times it's like, you can't do that.
The best adage in business, obviously, if you can make a promise for something on ridiculous heights as far as like whatever, and then can actually deliver, that's the biggest win you could ever have. But there's a reason why the saying is you under promise and over deliver.
Right. Yeah.
By saying this was the greatest superhero movie of all time, I went in with this mentality, this is about to be flawless because now I'm making comparisons to Dark Knight,
100%.
to Endgame and Infinity
Right.
War.
And you start screening it 2 months early, and so many people see it, and that also hurt it because those people thought it was unfinished, and then by the time it came out, it was like, oh, that unfinished CGI was just the CGI. That messed me up too.
That wasn't my problem, though. That is an issue. It was you spent 2 to 3 months giving free screenings to the people that would have been there day one, and so they've gone to 3 or 4 screenings. They may go another time, but how much money did you cut off?
That's not as much as you think.
Do you know how many screenings were running?
Yeah, they did a lot of them, but it's like it's. I mean, even let's say it was, and this is a big number. Let's say it was $5 million of all the screenings. Let's say it was $5 million.
You think it was only about that? Because from what I was seeing across the country with these screenings is that they were running anywhere from like 1 to 10, depending on the city, a week, which is insane.
I'd like to see how many in general, but like, yeah, that doesn't it doesn't add as much box office loss as you think.
The only reason why it does is that you needed the diehards
to go see it,
see it, and not necessarily.
And those people who loved it to spread the word about it after buying a ticket. I mean,
if you even want to do that for a week,
I think marketing, you're probably right. I think money wise though, like I don't think it. I mean, I guess it's kind of goes hand in hand, but I don't think it really took the box office out as that much.
I hope this was an experiment, so the DCU is different. I hope they played around with Flash so they could learn these lessons. I hope Superman doesn't start playing 2 months before. Like, I hope these are, you know what I mean, like lessons learned from the experiment of ending a universe.
100%. This was them going. We have this stuff that we need.
Gotta get it out.
It's like I got a lot of T-shirts right now. I got a lot of Big Thing T-shirts right now, and I want to sell them.
Yeah,
but not everyone's buying them. So like the thing is, like when I
greatest T-shirt of all time.
That's right. What I did is the greatest T-shirt of all time.
I've never had a shirt this good.
It is comfortable, but I got a lot, and I'm gonna have it. It's like, what do? I got to try this. I got to sell these. I love the shirts. I love it. I got to sell them. You got to get them out there. You got to find whatever you can to get them out there and sell them. Or you're gonna lose money on them, or you take the hit.
But if you're making new shirts next year, you don't want to say these are the best shirts.
No, you don't want to say
they're okay shirts.
Right. Well, especially when you've
whole
done,
new company.
Like Winston said though, you've done 4 movies that. The Suicide Squad, these other ones too. I think the Suicide Squad is better than the Flash.
Yeah,
I think like there's so many different movies I think are better. I don't know why he would say that, and I'd like to see his actual quote in general. But that's what everyone's been saying. But either way, this movie is. There's a lot of movies out there, and we've gone over this a million times over of why we think and this and that. But and we don't do that. But there's a lot of movies out there that are bad. That have done way better than this. It's still I'm gonna beat the drum though every single time. Stop making these movies for so much money and stop it unless you can guarantee. Stop it. 250, 300. Indiana Jones cost almost $300 million to make. That movie is going to lose money.
This one,
it's going to lose money.
No,
$300 million.
No. Because I've done some reviews. It's a fun popcorn movie. It's not $1 billion movie. Not even remotely close.
No, you got. I mean, especially not with look. This is the other thing that people don't understand. And we were just talking about loud people and how loud comments and everything too. Loud people affect box office. I'm telling you that right now. They do. People are like, don't give them that much power. They do. It's the same reason. Guess what? Bud Light ain't the #1 beer anymore. Whether we're not talking right or wrong. We're talking business. Loud people make it's too. So it's like the other thing. The loud people are making stink about this movie as well. And when there's a big stink around the movie, people are going to go, maybe, and not rightfully so. People are going to make us think about it and go, I'm not seeing it on principle. And they very well might would have liked it.
It was the first movie that I didn't expect that from that happened to scale. Like, I honestly watched it and left it going, like, I'm excited to talk about a movie that won't be problematic. And I literally had no idea until I started tweeting.
I didn't know.
I didn't know that, like, Phoebe Waller-Bridge had any sort of, like, aggression towards her until I was like, I enjoyed the movie. Didn't even mention her in my review. And, like, the loud people that I would not have expected about this movie, like, a woman left the kitchen, so they were very upset. And I was like, she doesn't even do anything that's like out of left field.
I think it also is tying into, and I don't think this is right on this particular thing. I think it's also ties into Kathleen Kennedy right now. It's like Kathleen Kennedy I think that there's a right way. It's very similar to what we were just talking about, to analyze whether or not you think, if you're a sports fan, again, right? And that's right. And
people are gonna love this.
But you don't like what the coach is doing. Because you don't like the lineup that the coach is running. You don't like the plays that the coach is calling. You don't like what the coach is doing. As a sports fan, you have every right to say that. And you have every right to say, well, I don't like the way the coach is running things right now. And I think that the coach has done this often I think that it's time for the coach to go. Wish the coach luck. Hope the coach manages another team. That's fair. When you start I don't like the coach. Why? Because the coach is a woman. Oh. But what about everything else? Just wants to put women on the team. But what else? And like that's the balance of like and those people are out there as well too.
And that's what shocked me is Indiana Jones. I did not expect that from.
Listen, I'm on that first team. It's time for Kathleen Kennedy to go. She's not a good fit for Lucasfilm anymore. That's my opinion. But it's not because she's a woman. It's because she's not making good decisions as far as overall, in my opinion, with certain creative choices. In my opinion, it has nothing to do with the fact that she is a woman or putting women in movies. Like you kind of, hey guys, guess what? Without women, we ain't here, guys. You know that? You can't just go, hey, I formed.
And there's more of them than us.
But either way, it's like it goes back to exactly what we were talking about.
The loud.
Express your opinion in a way that is not just like, she gotta go because she got a female agenda. No, just say, you can say, I don't like Kathleen Kennedy's creative choices. I think she has to go. And I don't like the new movie because it felt to me all right, so if I told you guys this, if I said to this, all right, so Indiana Jones to me was working, and then the only problem is I think that and I don't feel this way, but I'm just saying, this is the case. I feel like they overshadowed Indy with this new character, and to me, where this whole arc of where this character was going to go was overshadowed by his goddaughter, and it didn't work for me. So I chose, so I didn't like it. You'd be like, okay. Would you think that I hate?
Again, nuanced.
No,
like that's a conversation.
It's fair. It's a fair opinion. You felt he was overshadowed, and I think that the people who are hating it, that have seen it, that are saying it in a negative way, might feel that way that I just expressed it, and it's just like. It's just.
Do you think another factor of the box office is how much spectacle this year is because of the delays? Like this year is extra stacked. We talked at the beginning of the year how every week is something huge.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if whether or not it's superhero, whether Mission Impossible doesn't do as well, Indiana Jones doesn't do as well, certain things don't do as well because
Fast
everything's
X
so spectacle.
Didn't do.
Fast X.
It didn't do its
Did okay.
normal.
But that's the thing. So because I'm not even talking my Blue Beetle concerns, my Aquaman concerns. I'm just saying like spectacle movies because I know for a fact I had a better time walking out of Blackberry because of the spectacle of everything else. I needed something like Blackberry.
It's also streaming, man.
It's also streaming.
It's streaming. So it's just there are certain movies that people really want to see. Plus, and I just had this conversation yesterday. When you want to go, for family, right? So you guys, it's like you go and going out on a date and you take it's a date night. If you're going to the movies and you're going out, you're taking your lady or you're taking your significant other out to a date, it's a date night and it's going to cost you a little bit because it's a date, right?
Yeah.
Family, add in a little bit more depending on how big your family is. If I'm going taking my wife and my two kids, that's about $80 with everything included, maybe more, depending on what it is, depending on how hungry I am and everything else. But it's you got to choose. You got to choose like
which one you're seeing that month.
So Wicked Art, by the way, who I bring up, who did the comic book for us. He's got a family and he goes to movies and it's a big event for them. But like, there's movies that come out. And June was an interesting because you had Spiderverse.
Yeah.
You had Transformers. You got The Flash, and you got Indy, and all movies that he and his family wanted to see, but they got to choose because those are 4 nights that like we're in. Again, going back to that bubble, we're in the bubble. So we are fortunate enough that we get to see all these things.
I didn't have A-list growing up. I had to pick. I remember having to pick. I remember my family. We couldn't afford to see every movie. We couldn't afford to see like every other movie. It was picking the movie of the summer, maybe 3 movies in the summer. So I definitely identify with that. I'm curious about actual. Now I don't consider it superhero fatigue. We talked about mediocrity fatigue.
Yeah.
I do consider spectacle fatigue another factor. I mean beyond mediocrity. The type of movie.
I think that mediocrity actually plays into that spectacle thing as well too. Because like I said. I enjoyed Indiana Jones. Do I think it's the best Indiana Jones movie? No. Do I think it is in Indiana Jones feel more so than the last one? Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do think that it is. I think it's mediocre. I don't think it's like. I think it's good, but maybe a little over mediocre. But it's good. It's not great, and I don't like the ending. So maybe I would put it in mediocre. Flash is a really good movie, and I feel like the ending, after seeing it a second time, the ending's like, it's okay, the ending, but to me, it's a very I actually really like The Flash, but I can see where people go, it's kind of mediocre overall in general. Transformers was fun to watch, but mediocre. Across the Spiderverse was very good.
Guardians and Across the Spiderverse
Guardians. Well, but to me, the ones that have stood out are the Blackberry, Air. Like, but those movies aren't going to do well in the theater.
Right.
They're going to do well.
But I'll tell you.
Amazon.
But I'll tell you why though. And this is that whole thing. You have had too many suits. You've had too many.
I have two. I only bought two of them.
Haha. You've had too many suits, greedy, just like money guys deciding that they needed to be the ones that are making a lot of these calls. And obviously you run the pocketbooks, but look at how many of these superhero movies that still had spectacle didn't have to go that hard in the paint and really focused on what was important.
Yeah.
And then people gravitated towards that.
Well, remember also
Spider-Verse $100 million.
Yeah, but remember also that The Flash was set in like 2016 is when they first announced it, or 2017. So by the time that first trailer came out in like 2020 or 2021. So that was a different one because it was already in. It's same thing with Aquaman 2. They put it in the to go when they didn't really know what their direction was. So, but I agree with you. I think all these movies are too big. Like, there's no world where Indiana Jones should have been $300 million. There is no world, and even if it was the greatest movie ever, because it is playing towards a generation. This is playing towards really my generation
who has families that might not go to the theater.
A little under, but like it's you got to win the audience back. Putting a 300 that is a colossal error to make that movie $300 million. Colossal, because I think it'll break even, or even if it makes some money, it's not going to make so much like massive hit.
Right.
I don't care how good Mangold is, and Mangold's great, but like that is a massive error. All these movies are too big. I understand why Mission Impossible was as big as it was. And it's so funny because after, like I said, I just hold my Mission Impossible movies with
such a
high standard.
I was thinking when I do my Mission Impossible ranking, I'm gonna make my next slide also my action franchise ranking for context, because I need to explain to people that.
Film.
But people need to realize that it being where it is in my mission still puts it higher than most action movies.
I know,
but it's so hard to quantify that.
It's such a spectacle, and it's such a. But all I'll say about this, without getting to review Mission, and we'll move on to another story. But you saw the latest Fast.
Yeah.
There was literally a scene.
Oh, yeah.
From
I kept
Fast
thinking about that.
That is in Mission.
Yes.
It's the same scene.
And they had the premiere literally
course.
3 blocks away from where they had the Fast premiere where I was. I went to the Fast premiere in Rome.
Same
and then like
scene.
I saw it and I was like, they're literally oh no.
Dude,
and then I saw the movie, I was like, oh
it's the
boy.
same exact scene. It felt like a Fast and Furious.
And it was so funny to have a cliffhanger ending-ish. It ends, but it's so funny to have a part 1. You guys know it's part 1. To have those 2 movies and be like,
I know. It's so true. I mean, you need a lot to keep up
What
with
are
it.
the chances
Athletic
of
Greens is something you need for sure. AG1. You want to keep up with all this? Get you some AG1. And man, it gets cold everywhere. It gets cold in Rome. Get a RUMPL blanket. Bring it to Rome. And you have a lot of things that you can do, both Athletic Greens, AG1, and RUMPL. Let's talk about it. Our next partner is AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. I drink it every day. I love it. And I gave it a try, honestly, because Brett Sheridan told me to. And I'm glad that he did, because it's so good. I love it. It tastes good, too. And I'm not a big vitamin person. I know that. You know that at this point. But to take them all in one shot, put it in a water bottle, shake it up, that's it. I drink AG1 before my coffee. And I take it. It gives me a little boost of energy. And then I'm ready to go. And it makes me feel unstoppable. I am ready for the day. I love it. It's really great, because I'm telling you, it was very hard for me. Everyone's like, you got to take this vitamin, you got to take that, you got to do supplements. No, thank you. Give me one. Everything. One shot, done. And it tastes good. Might look green, hence AG1. Tastes yummy. I'm always looking for life upgrades, which is why I've come to love and trust AG1. It's why so many of you trust AG1. That's why I get notes all the time. You guys are trying it. Just did it. Love it. Re-upped. Doing it again. I keep getting it over and over and over, and that's why they've been so associated with this show. It's delivered to you every month. It's been very easy, super easy to make it a daily habit for me. And get those travel packs. I'm going to be going on the road soon, and I'll be taking that with me. If you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. You have to go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. That's drinkag1.com/big thing. I told you, RUMPL's the best. I keep getting DMs and I keep getting people who have been letting me know that they've gotten RUMPL because of this show, and I'm so glad. I'm so glad we're spreading the word. I really am. RUMPL's great, and they're on a mission to introduce the world to better blankets, and they're doing it. Durable, sustainable, and they're built to last. They recycle over 5 million plastic water bottles a year. They're B Corp certified, climate neutral, and they donate 1% of all their sales to environmental causes. I love RUMPL, and I've told you guys many times over, whether you're going to be at a picnic or you're going to go camping or you're just going to snuggle on a couch, they have all types of blankets. It's amazing. They have the original puffy blanket, which is their #1 bestseller. They have over 1 million sold. They have 135 unique designs, and there's a blanket for everyone. People are always looking for some new blankets, and sometimes when you buy blankets, they don't last very long. They're not durable. These things last, and they last for a while. They're amazing. They're not just for the outdoors, as I mentioned. Really good for just snuggling up and watching a movie. I do it all the time. For listeners, go to rumple.com/thebigthing and use that code, thebigthing, at checkout. Get 10% off your first order. Rumple.com/thebigthing, code thebigthing. All right, thank you to our sponsors, AG1 Athletic Greens and RUMPL. You keep hearing about these. You're like, wait, I hear about them like every show. Yeah, because you guys are getting them, and you're purchasing them, and you're enjoying them, and you're helping out us, and you're helping out yourselves. That's why they're coming back, and they'll continue to come back. I pin it in every single. So when you go to the comment section, you'll see it pinned. If you're like, well, where are the links for it? Go right there. And the first thing I say is, you want to help the show out, you want to support the show, get one of these. And get it. And please take a picture of the RUMPL blanket. I'll send it to RUMPL.
Click, click.
Yeah, all right, let's talk about one other thing, and that's Boom. That's right, guys. Boom Studios. They're back. And boy, are they back. Yeah, we talked about this. Creed. That's right. This week, the world of Rocky and Creed expands into comics for the very first time. Creed, the next round, is a brand new comic book series from Boom Studios, MGM, and Michael B. Jordan's production company, Outlier Society. The story takes place 10 years after the events of Creed 3. Adonis Creed is out of the ring, but not out of the game, as he trains the next generation of champions. It's his daughter, Amara, now an amateur boxer with Bianca by their side as manager. And if you saw Creed 3, you kind of saw them kind of teeing this up. But with Adonis and Bianca reluctant to pit their daughter against more dangerous opponents, Amara feels like her career is at a standstill and she's hungry for more. She'll have to find another trainer, someone who's not afraid of defying Adonis, but still knows how to teach her to fight like a Creed. Who's up for the challenge of training a young boxer to become a next champion fighter? Creed 3's director, producer, and star Michael B. Jordan served as the creative director on this new original story. He joins superstar co-writers LaToya Morgan of Into the Badlands and The Walking Dead, and Jai Jameson, writer of Superman and Lois, alongside artist Wilton Santos. This blockbuster new comic also features variant covers by a number of exciting artists, including Boss Logic. Love Boss Logic. Issue #1 of Creed, the next round, is available now at your local comic book store. Now, so when they announced this, by the way, that they were doing Creed, and I saw that Boom was doing it, I was like, this is what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
This is why Boom's got that name of like, all right, let me check this out. And this is a massive get for them, because this is essentially because they're doing a TV show, and this was like the first line. It reminds me of like the Animatrix. Yeah. You know, where they put out like the animated the game and all that, and they kind of led up to movies. This is, to me, the first step in it. It's the comic book to set it up 10 years later, and then we don't know where the next movie is going to land, right? The next movie could land 15 years into the future, you know, whatever it might be. It also, as much as I don't love it, it also gives you, if you're Michael B. Jordan, an out as far as where Rocky is, because at that point, Rocky would probably be Gonski, which, again, I hope that they can patch things up, but we'll see. Either way, this comic was great.
You Obi-Wan him.
So she goes to find him, and she's like, "Are you Rocky?" Rocky. That's a name I heard of. Long time. A long time. Hey, Paulie. Oh, Paulie, he dead.
Force Ghost Polly's in the second one. I thought this was such an accurate vibe to the movies that you could hear Michael B. Jordan's voice. reading it, I rarely hear like if Downey is
Right.
Tony Stark to me as much as he is.
Here's
I
the
don't
deal.
hear Tony when I read a Iron Man comic. I don't. It's just not how I read
Yeah.
comics. Ryan Reynolds I do because he's Deadpool to me.
Right.
But when I was reading this, I was like, this is Michael B. Jordan's voice. And I love knowing Michael B. Jordan loves comics, that he got to make something in this medium that feels so authentic to not only him,
Right.
but he loves this franchise. He directed this debut. So like this is Boom doing what they do best, which is making a really good original idea, tying it into an IP, and then letting creators flourish. And it's the best of all worlds. And I was impressed with the art. I was impressed with the story. I was impressed with the world building.
It was so well done. It was so well done. And you're right. You can hear, since Michael B. was creative director on this, you can hear
stamp,
him
yeah.
in there. You can see the little nuanced stuff. I was telling Coy, it's the very minor things of like, hey, you want to do XYZ? I bet. Like that seems really silly, but that is someone that genuinely knows the voice of this character,
Right.
of the culture they're in,
Right.
all that kind of stuff, and it fully translates to the page. And Amara is flourishing as a teenager, even in the first issue,
Right.
about living up to her father's legacy, but trying to stamp her own way and being very similar. And it is
It's
so
really
good.
And so you guys can check that out. It's available. And if you're a Creed fan, man, yeah, it's special and Boom's onto something good. Coy, anything else you're reading? Right now?
I'm really actually it just came out in a big collection. There's that book I think I told you guys about called Batman One Bad Day, and they're all different anthology stories. So it's if Batman was kind of in the wrong, so if the villains were like a little bit more right, because there's always that psychological study, and I love every single one of these. But the beautiful thing about them is it's an anthology series where you don't have to read any other comics ever, and you don't even have to read all of them, but they just collected them into a box set. And like there's this one with Ra's al Ghul where he's basically like, I'm gonna take out all the billionaires ruining the planet, and Batman's like, you can't kill. And so in taking out Ra's al Ghul, like the planet is screwed. So
Right.
who's more right?
Right.
And then like there's one with the Riddler where it's like the Riddler being able to outsmart the world's greatest detective, and they're all individual to each other, but they're some of my favorite Batman stories ever, and they just collected them. It's called Batman One Bad Day. It's hardcover.
Awesome. So go and check those out for sure. And once again, thank you to our friends over at Boom Studios. So when you said that One Bad Day, I'll always
That tree?
no, a Collider.
always
When
back.
we're at Collider, Fernandez, who owned Collider, Mark Fernandez. There was the old Collider, the one that before they moved into the warehouse one, the one we
one
used to do
across.
old studio.
Yeah.
The bathroom was terrible. It was like this one. There was no windows. It was like this one little closet. It was horrible.
It's the middle of everything.
And so we shared it with this other place the other guys who were renting it. And Fernandez and I walked into the bathroom one time, and this guy, I mean, whoever was just in there, just really polluted the place, right? So we walked in, and Fernandez, to this day, I quote it and I laugh every time I think about it. I never heard anybody describe it. He goes, "Oh, somebody had a bad day." Somebody had a bad day. It killed me. It kills me every single time. So One Bad Day coming out in stores. All right, let's do one more story, and then we can call it a one good day. All right, let's talk about Across the Spiderverse, because what's the new one called?
Beyond the
Beyond the Spiderverse. So that one was supposed to come out in 2024, at least March. And then there was a report, which is now defunct in BS, that was coming out in 2026. That was from a website that is not accurate.
So credible.
Yeah. But it is being pushed back, and it's being pushed back until probably late 2024. Is that what it seems like? What's all the drama?
I wouldn't date it if I were them.
Yeah.
It only puts you in a bad position. I think that I honestly would rather the MCU going forward. I know this isn't the MCU, but I think that them not going to this year's Comic-Con hopefully sets a precedent of like, stop doing a 5-year public slate, have a 10-year in-house slate. I would love if movie studios stopped dating movies so far out. I think it's not fair to the creators. I think it's not smart for the audience expectation. I think it's like binge culture where like you're rushing through art. Like if you look at a movie like The Bear right now,
yeah.
I love. I'm watching it slowly because I love it. I don't want to put 3 years of people's work through in a day.
Right.
I think movies need to slow down so they can get done right. And there was all the drama about like these animators working 7 days a week, 11 hours a day, and all these things. You don't want to go into a position where you're like, well, we put on a date in the calendar.
Right.
Like I think it's smart to know in-house,
Right.
but announcing it puts you in pressure that's not smart. I hope they don't date
It's
it.
a Sony thing though too. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
No, I'm on the same page. You got it. Like I actually, you know, I really give Kalinowski credit where when they announced
Foolish.
when they announced Corenswet and Brosnahan, and then everybody was like, "Great, I just want a really good Superman trilogy." He's like, "Whoa, why are we already thinking about a trilogy?
Right.
Can I get one
Good
really
one, right.
heartfelt, put in the energy ass movie.
Right.
And that's what Into the Spider-Verse felt like. And so the last thing that I want, because I felt the same way, even though they were essentially breaking into a part 2 or planning 2 more movies, it felt like, even with all the stuff that's coming out, that Across the Spider-Verse had time and energy put into it.
Yeah.
I want the same thing to stop telling us, like you said, I don't want a 5-year slate.
Right.
I want you to tell me what's going to happen in the next 2 years. We're going
Right.
to do a Superman and a Batman movie. Get ready. That's all I need.
Right.
I will deal with the franchise after the fact.
And I'm so glad James Gunn didn't date all those announcements. I'm so
Right.
glad there's
He
no
just said,
implication
so
of when it could even be. It's we get me.
Sense that we want to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that again, Kathleen Kennedy, I think, did right with when they didn't announce a slate. They announced time periods. And to me, that was a very smart move to do. Like, all right, I got Winston and Coy, the new filmmakers are coming in here too. They've done a lot of great things. Hey guys, so we'd love to work with you guys. Like, what time period do you want to play in?
That's great.
Well, we really like this idea of what we watched Mangold's movie, and we want to play in that old Republic area, but we want to do like 1,000 years after. It's interesting. What's the take? We want to do the New Jedi Order. We want to do the Old Republic. It's like okay, that to me is smart, as opposed to saying, well, no, we have this movie coming out. That's why I think what was a bad move on our part is doing the whole. And I had someone reach out to me saying, I don't think that's. If I had, she said, I don't think that's what she meant. If I had $1 for every time I heard, well, I don't think that's what she meant. And a lot of times it's probably true, but she needs a PR person because she did the whole announcing of the 3-year plan with the James, like doing it like James Bond. And we wanted to make these like events and then they announced they're doing 2 movies in 1 year.
And how much more excited would we be for Blade if we didn't have a date move 5 times? Like, I'm very
Right,
excited for
right.
Blade because of Mahershala. And if Mahershala was the only thing I knew, and then, oh my God, a year later, Mia Goth, not new writer, new director, new, like, I think, I mean, obviously we're in the bubble, but the public announcements cause it to be worse. So I would love if Kevin Feige finishes out what he said he's going to do and then not make a big announcement and let us enjoy them 2
Right.
years at a time. And I think Phil Lord and Chris Miller should, like, hey guys, we're really excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse. We'll get it to you when it's done, like when it's ready. Don't tell me when. And then like
Right.
when it's a year out, give me a teaser.
One of the things that made Into the Spider-Verse so successful as like the jumping off point for all of this, I remember being very confused at the time because it got announced the same year that they were announcing Far From Home.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait. Aren't we just about to get a Spider-Man movie? I was like, that looks really cool. And that definitely is Miles. But like, okay, there was mystery behind it.
Yeah.
There is something about part of what I think is really putting a dagger into Hollywood right now. You are so hell-bent on building anticipation. I think people forget part of anticipation is mystery.
Right.
The
Yeah.
mystery's gone. You're giving us too much information that really, like you said, should be back of house, and we don't get it until you're practically ready to deliver.
Right.
That should be the end of it.
All right. Well, this is the end of this. It is time to call it a day. We missed out some of the stories, but we did have a lot of great conversations. But before we do, I want to talk to both Winston and Coy. Where can the good kids find you? Oh, good.
Wu-Tang!
Watched an American Saga yet?
Not yet. I haven't yet. You can find me at the Swaggy Blur. Do me a favor. TikTok shadow ban me. Go to TikTok. I know. Go to TikTok. Go to at the Swaggy Blur. Watch all and just like, this is amazing. Tell TikTok to kiss my ass. Help me out with that.
That'll help.
Follow me on follow me on all the platforms, but for real. But like, let's push through that nonsense, please. And thank you.
We talked earlier about a wholesome ideal of Superman. I made, in part of my series of recommending comics, my favorite Superman comics like Birthright, All-Star Superman, certain comics that represent Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, all those things. In 41 seconds, I give you about 62 years of comic rec. So check out my TikTok and Instagram for a dense deep dive into comics very quickly, and hunt me down on YouTube as well.
All right, guys. So thank you once again. If you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, do me a favor, show a little, hit that button, trying to get to 100,000. And you haven't also checked out Katie Sackhoff, blah, 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 with Katie Sackhoff. That is over at her channel. Episode 1 is up. We announced next week Bryce Dallas Howard on the show. It's going to be a good one. And Katie's going to be in San Diego on July 22nd. There's only around 20 tickets left if you want to come see it in person. But don't fret, as the kids say. You can go and you can see it on a live stream. And that is blahblahblahkatie.com. All right, for Winston and Coy, that's me. You're you. See you next time. Peace.